Hello and welcome back to the Hearthstone Alphabet Tournament Basic League. We are in the semi-finals. Today's game, the E deck, represented by the Warrior, will be going up against the L deck, represented by the Mage. Having a look at the deck lists here, both decks seem pretty evenly matched. Both have a lot of damage from hand options. For the Mage, that would be the spells and the Reckless Rocketeer, and the Warrior has those charge minions, weapons, and spells in the sense of Heroic Strike and Execute. And both decks also have a reasonable amount of card draw. The Shield Blocks, no movement better for the Warrior, and the Arcane Intellects for the Mage. I think the ace card for the Mage will be the Water Elemental. If the Mage can get that to stick on board and freeze the Warrior's face, that could create a lot of problems denying any weapon swings. We'll have to see how it turns out. Let's go into the first game. Okay, so game number one. Probably going to get rid of the Reckless Rocketeer, yep. Wants to draw that later for a bit of endgame burst. Interesting starting hand, no minions. So it's going to be playing a kind of defensive, reactive first few turns. Especially considering the Mage's hand does have minions, which it will be playing. The issue with that is those spells are therefore going to target minions later on, which are more likely to be the bigger minions. Draws a Boldface Ogre, yeah, could see that on turn 6. Very strong play, but not quite as good against the Mage because the Mage can deal with that with a Fireball Ping. Using a Fiery War Axe to get rid of the Kobold, I think that's good. Otherwise that spell damage could lead to extra damage. The Fiery War Axe being obviously a nerfed card, quite heavily nerfed from 2 to 3 mana. Kind of made it useless in standard, but in this basic league I think it's a reasonable card still. Draws the Bloodframe Raptor, I think we'll be seeing that this turn. I don't think you swing at the Mage, but that's maybe me saying that knowing that there's a Chillwind Yeti in the hand. So we might see it, because if he doesn't hit the Mage, then the Mage will be able to run into the Raptor, ping and stay alive. Does choose to hit it, which means if the Mage plays this Water Elemental, won't be able to kill the Raptor, which then leaves the Water Elemental more likely to die on the Warrior's following turn, which I think is quite risky, but goes for it anyway. As I was saying in the deck preview, I think a very important thing will be getting the Water Elemental to stick. So if the Warrior wants to get rid of it this turn, it's going to have to, I was going to say either Heroic Strike or Corcoran Elite. Cleave won't do it, we'll leave it with 1 HP. I think I preferred the... Oh, what's going on here? He's not respecting the Water Elemental, letting that live. Very interesting. We may even see a Fireball to that Corcoran. I think the Warrior is undervaluing the Water Elemental, because now that's going to keep him locked. Can't swing weapon, but even more importantly, can't swing the Heroic Strike. Going to make it very difficult to get rid of this Water Elemental now. I think that was a mistake. I think you definitely wanted to ignore the Damnable Mage earlier and go all in on the Water Elemental. Now we may see the Mage sheep that just to keep up the momentum. Chooses to go for the Boldface Ogre, okay. That still works because it's still an extra turn that the Warrior's frozen, giving the Mage quite a lot of initiative. Uses the Reckless Rocketeer to deal with that. Or not quite deal with it. Warrior in quite a very difficult position now. If he wants to clear this board, it's going to take... It is possible with the Cleave and Arcanite Reaper, but it's going to take another 6 damage, leaving him only on 10 health on turn 7. The Mage has used one of the Fireballs, but there's still enough in the deck and 2 Frostbolts. Draws an Arcane Intellect. I think the Mage is going to want to look at going quite aggressive now. draws the Reckless Rocketeer, so definitely has a bit of burst. And if the warrior wants to get rid of this, it's going to have to swing into it. Puts up a Bold of his Ogre. The issue is the warrior doesn't have many taunts, if any. So the mage can... So the warrior needs to keep control of the board. Otherwise the mage will just keep going face with the minions. Is that enough burst? Reckless Rocketeer plus Frostbolt? I think it is. Wow. A very quick, easy game for the mage. I think it all came down to that water elemental decision. Hopefully it goes better in the next game. The mage takes game number 1. Okay, game number 2. We start on the warrior's first turn. Has a bit more of a mid-rangey hand with the Inventor and the Nightblade, but does have tools for the early game to keep the board under control. The mage, quite slow with the 2 polymorphs, because obviously to get their full effects of killing the sheep may cost 2 extra mana, which is 6 mana in total, quite slow. Chooses to go for the Heroic Strike rather than leaving it up a turn and then Fiery War Axing it, ultimately reducing the amount of damage I think the warrior is going to take. I think that's fair, considering how the last game was over by turn 9. I think that's fair. Mage draws the Frostbolt. It's a good answer to this minion. The best situation for the mage is obviously have minions on the board, send stuff like that face, keep the weapons in check. See, as we go into the mid game, could be anyone so far. Draws a Fireball. Don't want to use a Fireball for that, I don't think. But is not taking any chances. Yeah, the issue with the mage's draw is not drawing any minions. So if the mage doesn't deal with the minion as soon as possible, it's just the warrior's minions are going to go straight face and just get a wider board. But the mage does have the Flame Strike, so it's not the end of the world. Was going for a very lucky Arcane Missiles there, didn't get it. Now what do we see here? Chooses to Cleric up, making the Nightblade a bit stronger, which gives enough mana for the axe. That was over putting down a second Nightblade, which is... yeah, I think this is better with the weapon. And now you can even Heroic Strike the weapon next turn, in case the mage plays something like a Bold of his Ogre, for example. Using the Kobold Weldy Arcane Explosion to clear the board. I think you draw first, see your options. You're doing well at keeping this game under control, so you kill the minions, you don't start just going straight face. Chooses not to draw and plays in Nightblade. It's a little bit more aggressive play. I'm not sure who'd win if it goes into a very long game. As I said in the deck preview, both classes I feel are quite evenly matched. Possibly the mage win because of the Flame Strike. If it got a couple of good Flame Strikes off, I think the mage would win in a very long game. Does choose to Flame Strike, so this is kind of the opposite of what I was saying. The mage having to Flame Strike for not a lot of value. 7 mana to remove 1/4/4, it's not great. And now the warrior knows that it's out the hand. It's going to presume the mage hasn't drawn a second one, I think that's a fair assumption. It's able to now create a wider board. Unfortunately doesn't have enough mana for the Bloodflame Raptor, but hey ho. Does have 2 polymorphs, as I said they are quite slow. And you maybe want to save it for bigger minions. So this would be a nice Flame Strike turn. So how can the warrior deal with this Boulder Fist? I think you send the cleric into it and then execute, because the cleric's going to die anyway from the ping. Once a minion's on 1 mana against mage, it becomes a bit of a sacrificial target. chooses to draw first to check the options. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, and then we see the execute, leaving 3 damage for the face, and mana left over to chooses to draw over the player Raptor, probably looking for another weapon to really help the aggression against the face. But now the mage has drawn the key Warrior Elemental. Let's see if the warrior has learnt the lessons. It might be too late actually, because the mage is quite low. For example, yeah, finally choosing the polymorph just to reduce the incoming damage. But because it's so low, could just heroic strike, Bodifice Ogre. And then next turn use the Reckless Rocketeer to finish off. Yeah, nice and wide. A Fiery War Axe draw next turn would be definitely lethal. So the Water Elemental is going to be used for control. 2 Water Elementals now. Maybe too late. Ping to get rid of one of those sheep. So with the sheep and the Rocketeer, that's 6. The warrior needs to draw 2 damage. Not that kind of 2 damage, that only goes to minions. This game's not over yet, the mage can come back. The mage may have to use its Reckless Rocketeer to deal with that Bodifice Ogre. The mage doesn't have any taunt, so the mage basically needs to send at least one of those water elementals to the warrior's face to keep him frozen. Otherwise, as soon as a weapon gets drawn, it could be over. But it's not going to be able to do that this turn because it needs to... Ah, okay. Freezes it to... Things the warrior's on 14 armor because of those shield blocks. So this is going to be... And you can't keep a water elemental alive that long. So this feels like the mage needs to go aggressive because on a bit of a timer. Yeah, warrior going full aggressive. It's basically relying on a top deck though to win the game, because an Arcane Explosion ping will get rid of that Rocketeer. Draws the second Flame Strike. Yeah, too slow for the moment, especially if you can Cleric up, do a bit more damage.
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Of course, the warrior does have another Reckless Rocketeer. See, this is what I'm talking about. Needs to keep him frozen so he can't swing the weapons. It's unfortunate he didn't get that last turn. But as I said, the warrior does still have a Reckless Rocketeer in his deck. So the mage has just got to pray that that's way on the bottom. The last card if the mage wants to win this game, I think. In the meantime, we'll just keep building up the board, doing as much damage as possible. Must be quite frustrating to keep getting frozen, but there you go. He's able to deal with the... Oh, what a draw. As long as it doesn't take 27 damage next turn, this game is done. That second execute being really important there. Even the decision to trade with the sheep, because if... Am I right in thinking, going back, that had the mage left that 1 minion up, I mean the warrior probably would have sent it into the face. So then it could have pinged it the next turn and the mage would have been on 1, but the water elemental wouldn't have been damaged, so it wouldn't have been able to be executed. Interesting. I think that's how that played out. So yeah, it didn't take 27 damage. And it's going to win the game with just... It's at 1 with 1 health. Very lucky. Or perhaps very unlucky from the mage. If it drawn the Dalaran mage, that would have, the arcane missiles would have done 1 extra damage. very close second game. Once again, that water elemental being huge to the outcome. But the warrior does win in the end. Managed to equalise. It's 1-1 going into game number 3. Okay, game number 3. Probably want to toss back the charge. That also in the previous game would have helped it kill the water elemental if it did draw Reckless Rocketeer or the execute. So basically a lot of outs to the warrior in that last game. Anyway, focusing on this game. Not drawing any weapons to start with, a bit unfortunate. And the mage does draw the water elemental, so this is going to be a tricky one for the warrior. Yep, going to play the Blood Vent. I think the mage may Kobold and coin Arcane Missiles. That would be pretty good. Nope, chooses to just Arcane Missiles. This is quite bad because it leaves it up. Oh, I got lucky. So that really could have gone either way there. That was risky.
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
The warrior being forced to play a Naked Shattered Sun just to have something on the board. As I say, doesn't have many board control-y things without minions. Basically just a Heroic Strike, so if it doesn't play the cleric, then the mage really has the momentum. Gonna go all in on this water elemental just to get rid of it early. And the warrior doesn't really mind being frozen because it doesn't have any weapons at the moment. The Kobold coming down. Unfortunately, it doesn't have enough mana for a bigger minion or plus the cleric, so a bit of a weak turn from the mage. End up being that freeze does end up being quite important, as he did draw the axe and very nice use of charge, giving it to the 2/4. So a very nice value trade there. Value trades being really important in this league.
They'll never know what hit.
Heroic Strike, good timing, able to clear out that Nightblade. The warrior is now on, well, will be on 20 health compared to the mage's 30, which isn't great considering the mage still has 2 fireballs, 2 frostbolts. But this does leave enough mana for an armor up. So the warrior not looking to be in too bad a spot. Things can very quickly switch round though, because that flame strike is going to come down next turn. Shame, really a shame didn't draw on Dalaran Mage there, because that plus Arcane Explosion would have been huge. But never mind. Chooses to just play the Boulder Fist. Now does the warrior go all in on the Boulder Fist? Which it should, because the mage has the Flame Strike. Chooses to not quite go all in, using the execute, which is good because now this flame strike gets terrible value. You do not want to use the flame strike in this situation. Of course you don't. Got a frostbolt and an arcane explosion, and now a fireball. I think there's a case for just using the arcane explosion over the frostbolt, because with the amount of cards the warrior now has, it's unlikely that he's going to get a super wide board, and the frostbolt can go face. It's more relevant. That's definitely the good way to do it. I think you just go in for a Reckless Rocketeer because it gives you enough mana, nicely fills out that mana curve. And because the mage chose to frostbolt face, doesn't have the best way to deal with this. I mean, it obviously can use the fireball, but you would have rather kind of it been the other way around and have the frostbolt for this minion and kept the fireball. You would have taken 3 extra damage from the weapon, but I think that's fine. What does the warrior draw? Shield block. I think you play it first just to check your options, so you can go with either of the other 2 minions. Cleave. Can actually use that in tandem with the weapon to get rid of the Yeti. which keeps the Reckless Rocketeer totally safe. Oh wait, no, it doesn't have enough mana. I'm blind. It is now going full aggressive, full on the face. This may backfire because of the Frostbolt. And now the mage can play another minion to create quite a wide board that the warrior is going to struggle to deal with. The warrior is going to have to rely on a couple of top decks if he wants to win this and finish off the mage. And that is the kind of top deck I'm talking about. That can win this. Bit of cheeky emoting there. Warrior feeling pretty confident he's got this semi-final victory. Because I don't think the mage can draw anything. The water elemental's too slow and he's played both the Frostbolts. There's nothing the mage is going to draw, but I don't think he's going to find anything. Wow. The warrior winning this by just chipping away at the mage turn after turn, and the mage not having enough powerful turns, being too reactive this game, not having the right cards to push aggression, and has therefore got so low that a couple of weapon swings will end it. It's a nasty way to go. And the warrior takes it. Takes game number 3, takes the series 2-1, and heads off into the finals. So a quick look at the standings. The warrior goes on and will either be playing in the finals the priest O deck or the paladin U deck. And OVU will also be our next game in the series. Thank you for watching and stay tuned.